Hi everybody, welcome back to my stream. I'm so glad you could join me today. Today is a special stream. Let me turn this on. This will be cool. Uh, I don't know if you guys can hear it. I think you can, but yeah, we'll turn that on so you have something in the background. Today's a little bit different than our regular stream. Hi Tyneezy, thanks for joining us. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about NaNoWriMo. I cannot say this. I keep calling it Nano, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about my progress. We're going to talk about Inner Sanctum. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. If you are joining me from YouTube or you're joining me from Facebook and you want to take part in the conversation, please feel free to jump over to Twitch. We have all kinds of fun little things you can do in the chat. We have 8 balls and we have emote walls where you can post a whole bunch of emotes and they float all over the screen and all kinds of stuff. So feel free to jump over to Twitch and we'll be able to answer your questions if you have them. So with that said, this is going to be a smaller stream. I've never done it just chatting before. You know me, I'm all about my games. So we're gonna kind of get into this, but you know, bear with me if I'm not 100% up on what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do things and stuff like that. All right, we're not going to stay on this screen. I'm actually going to blow up my desktop so you guys can see that. And yeah, I mean, if you have advice or anything like that, you know, give it coffee. It does a buddy good. All right, let's do this. I need to swap over to here. Then I'll drop this down. And this brings up Nano. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it Nano. All right. So this is a project that I'm currently with, that I'm involved with. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm participating in this competition. So what it is it's the National Novel Writing Month, and it began in 1999. Now, believe it or not, about 21 people started this. And what it is you need to write a novel in 30 days or less. That's 50,000 words or more. Okay, you start on November 1st, you end on November 30th. It's just that simple, and it's straight through. Now, I write a lot, okay, and we'll get into that soon. I write a lot. So this is not a hard push for me, but it is a hard push. Because it's not like super hard, but it is hard because 50,000 words is a lot. Right? And to do it alone without the feedback or interactions from others is even harder. So, I mean, this is a push. And a lot of people struggle with it. And you just don't have a lot of time to do other stuff. For example, at the moment, I'm behind at least a day. You need to write like 1,665 words a day in order to hit this number or more. And I am behind a day. So what are they? What exactly? Why would you do this, right? What is it? So Nano, aside from being this National Novel Writing Month, is a worldwide organization that is non-profit, right? They started in 2006, and they have just continuously grown from there. You know, some cool facts is, like I said, they originally started with like 21 dudes, right? Now, in 2020, they had 552,000 plus participants in this program, and of those, 97,000 were students and educators and young writers. And it's so important that we get our young writers to explore with their imagination and learn that there is an entire world waiting for them inside books, and that they can be part of that world. They can help others get into those worlds and show them what their world is like. So this organization, aside from being a non-profit, is huge. They focus on young writers, they focus on old writers. There are famous authors that have taken place in this. There are non-famous authors that have taken place in this. And they offer a variety of things. So let's say that you do hit your 50,000 words at the end. What happens, right? Well, you win, okay? And that gives you access to a lot of sponsors and promotions that are designed to help writers. So that's huge, right? That is huge. And if you are writing and you are serious about writing, these sponsorships and these programs can really help you. And so it is definitely worth jumping into, and they have all kinds of stuff in their community to help you get started and give you the initiative and the knowledge that you need to really push into this. Don't smoke, it's bad for you. So, what else do we have? Well, aside from the competition, which as you just saw, there are like over 500,000 people participating in this thing, probably more since it's 2021 and everybody's stuck inside. But, you know, there are tons of people participating in, and there's not just one winner, right? There's multiple winners. And this is really a program designed around yourself. It's a challenge for you, right? So nobody's reading your work. Nobody's checking your work. They can. I believe they do have the right to check if you're using copyrighted materials and stuff like that. But nobody's actually saying, let me see what you've written, right? Which means that you can just lie, right? You could just lie and just write in that you're doing this many words every single day and be done with it, and you'll win. And congratulations to you. How does that help? Well, I had somebody tell me on Inner Sanctum an answer to that very question. If you can just lie, then what's the point of doing it at all, right? And their answer was awesome, right? What they're going to do is they're going to open up a variety of programs and stuff to help you with what you've written, right? If you haven't written anything, then you're not accomplishing it. And what they're going to offer you is not going to help you, right? And so you're just wasting your time. There's nobody going to pat you on the back and tell you, you know, wow, you know, that's amazing. It's just, this is a challenge for yourself. And if you're looking for that kind of rewarding feedback that you're going to get from people, you can get it, but people are not reading your work, right? People are not trying to judge you in that way. And so it's just interesting. So that's how that works, right? And I'll show you my work in just a second, and we'll go over my story and stuff like that, and it's really cool. But before we do that, let's go into some of the things that I've noticed since I've joined NaNo. We're going to call it NaNo. That's not its name, but that's what we're calling it. NaNo. Since I've joined them, and I'm new to all of this, right? I was very nervous to get involved. I didn't understand how it worked. And once I did understand how it worked, I didn't understand its purpose. So it took a lot of research for me to even consider doing this. I'm very busy and I write a lot. So, you know, writing more, I don't need to prove to myself that I can hit 50,000 words, because I know I can, right? I post on average about 3,000 words per 4 or 5 hours. I mean, I'm constantly posting updates to my running stories. So I didn't need to prove this to myself, but I definitely am glad that I got involved. Some of the good things that I've noticed about the NaNo community is they're very friendly. It's a very open community. They have a ton of resources to help writers. They have a ton of stuff there to make this easier and more enjoyable. They are a nonprofit organization, and I think that their donation that they're currently running, they're running a charity right now, and let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so, and these donations go to assist writers and other charities that they're doing in that regard. Very, very cool stuff. And I think it would be doing better if Mr. Beast and every other mainstreamer on the network wasn't currently trying to push their Clean the Oceans campaign at the same time, right? Because a lot of people aren't going to multitask donate. But it is a very good cause. They are making a great amount of progress with their charity, and I truly hope they succeed in reaching their goals. Another thing that they do is they have the community, right? So you have your projects, you have your buddies. These are other people, friends, and stuff like that that you may have wrote with. You have groups. Now, NaNo is not restricted to the internet. It is a worldwide program, and they are everywhere. And they are here in Milwaukee. They are out in Nigeria. They are in Texas. They are everywhere. They're everywhere. And all you do is you join these groups and you find one that's local in your area. Now, because of COVID-19, unfortunately, there's not a lot of live meetups. So everything's being done online, right? Come and join our video, come and join our community and do video stuff and things like that. Like in my community right now, they're doing prompt writings and sprints, right? For writings. So, and you can join up in their page where they have all the cameras and everything so that you're part of the community. Then they also have other groups, right? And I'm part of the Romance Writing 18 group. And in this group, you know, it's just people with similar interest in writing, right? I write romance. I write a horrific romance, but I write horror-based romance stories. So joining a Romance Writing 18+ story site group is great. It allows me to talk and bounce ideas off people and share ideas with people. It's very cool. They also have their forums, which are very strange, right? Their forums don't work like regular forums. If you're under the impression that you can log on and post your manuscript, your book, your whatever it is you're writing, you're wrong. You can't. They don't want you to do that. And if you post more than like 1,500 words at the most, you know, they're going to delete it. They're very strict on that kind of stuff. But the forums are really helpful. They've got a lot of information and a lot of ways to reach out to people and talk to people. So that works. If I had negative things to review about NaNo, I would say it's a very niche community, right? You have every walk of life in this group. You have children, you have adults, you have doctors, you have dropouts, you have every single walk of life you could imagine is inside this group. Professional authors, professional editors, people that have never touched a pen and paper, people that have never written before. It's everything, right? And because of that, it's very niche in the fact that it's not a very easy to jump into and start meeting people community. It took me a while to get into my groups. It took me a while to talk, and I still haven't received replies on the forums themselves. I've only received replies through this page that you're seeing. So it's just not, it's not as friendly as I imagined it would, right? But that is not to knock its potential. It is a very, very good program, and it is a very, very cool thing to be part of. I am so proud to be part of this, and I strongly encourage anybody else that is interested to also be part of it. Now, that we've done our reviews, let's go over to where I write all the time, right? I am constantly writing, and I write at a place called Inner Sanctum, or Inner Sanctum Role-Playing, the Inner Sanctum. They are also going to help me with some other stuff, but this is where I write. Now, they refer to what we do on this site as role-playing. I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever played tabletop, or you've ever played role-playing online, or role-playing old Neverwinter Nights version role-playing and stuff like that, then what we're doing on this site, to me, does not classify as role-playing. Role-playing is an immediate interaction between you and another person, right? So you're shaking hands and, you know, hi, how are you? And the other person replies, I'm doing great, how are you? And it's just bang, bang, bang. It's constant, short, immediate interactions with another individual or a world at large. You are taking on the persona of a character and you are playing out that character's life, right? That is to me, the definition of role play. What we are doing here on this site, what I do is not what I would consider role play. What I'm doing is co-writing stories, because you can't just shake somebody's hand and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" and post it. You need story, depth, description, everything that comes with it. You're basically writing your own section of what's going on, not just the interaction, but what do you look like? What is your character expressions? What's around you? What are on the walls? What's on the floor? What's behind you? It just goes on and on and on. It's a full-on description. And that's just describing something. That doesn't have anything to do with your interaction, right? And then on top of that, you have the world at large that you are responsible for creating, you and this co-author. So together, you're collaborating to create a working, functional story that will be readable, right? So to me, it's not role play. It's co-writing a story, and that is how I have always referred to it since the day I joined this site. This site is absolutely amazing. I love it. I write on it all the time. I write a ton, and I cannot express enough. It is friendly, it is active, it is constantly, and I'm not being sponsored by them either. It is constantly being updated, it is constantly being monitored. It is just an absolute delight to be part of this community. And honestly, it is a very, very active community. I'm constantly greeting people that join the site, and one of the most common things that I think I hear is my other site that I used to do stuff like this on died, or it faded out, or it doesn't do this, or it doesn't do it like this. And I even saw somebody say that they've never seen a site completely dedicated to writing like this. And that's what it is. And it's not just interacting with other authors, right? There is a vast array of things you can do on this site. You can write your own books and have people review them. You can submit what you're writing to have it reviewed. You can upload your own stories. There's just tons and tons of stuff that you can do here, and they continuously expand it. They also create monthly challenges. We just finished the Halloween challenge, where they give you a writing prompt, and then you write out a story based on that single prompt alone, and then the community votes as a whole to see who wins that competition. And they do stuff like this all the time. It's really fun, and it's really enjoyable. And if you're interested in that, I will add a link to my Twitch profile at some point, and you'll be able to come here and join it. Otherwise, I have added links to my YouTube and to my Twitter and to my Facebook, where you could join as well. If you're not interested in writing, but you want to read, like I did when I first joined, I was far too timid to start writing. All I did was read. This site, completely open. And when I look at these stories, I don't see them as someone's private tale. I see them as an unfinished book being co-written by multiple authors. And there are just so many. There are so many. So what about people like me who write adult content, right? Because I write very horrific, very dark, gloomy stuff. And it's also got a lot of erotic stuff in it, right? Well, that is only a very small section of the site. It is not the focus of the site. This site is focused on, all of this is normal writing. No erotica is allowed in these sections. And you go down, no erotica, and then you reach here and you have different levels that are allowed and where they are allowed. And that's it. That's the only place you can post that kind of story. So is that good? That's good. It's also an 18 plus only site, guys. So if you're underage, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to join. But it will be here when you are ready. But there are rules and stuff that regulate how that works, but they're, it's not slamming the hammer down. I told somebody the other day on the site, they were worried that they might get banned if they said something that was inappropriate or wrong. The site doesn't really function that way. You would really have to do something super bad to get instantly banned, right? Like an unforgivable act. normally, if something happened, what's gonna go on is they're gonna privately contact you. It's not gonna be made a public spectacle. They're gonna explain what happened, and they're gonna work with you on finding a solution. It's not bring the band hammer down, get them the hell off our site. It's just not that way. It's a very friendly community. It's very easy to get along with people. It's just not it's not people flexing. It's not people saying, look how much better my story is than yours. It's just not that kind of community at all. So I really think that if you're interested in writing, or you're interested in reading, or you're just looking for somebody to chat with and hang out with, this is a great place to do it. And I really hope you consider that and join us at some point. All right, now that we've done all of that, we got it all out of the way. I'm like talking a mile a minute, I know, right? Don't smoke, it's really bad for you. So it's fun though, but I've never done a just chatting before. Oh, you know what? I can't even see if people are asking me questions because I didn't turn on my my overlay. There it comes. So there's my overlay, right? And this is because I only have one monitor, and so when I'm playing games and stuff, I need to be able to see if somebody is chatting with me. So I just throw this overlay up on my screen, and then I play the game. That way, if they talk or something, I can see it over here, and I can see what's happening event-wise up here. But now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump into my story and what it is, right? And what I've been working on, my novel. So I am writing Whispers of a Killer, right? And the cover is nothing special. I just quickly went over to a website. I built it and then I slapped it on there as a cover. If I do decide to do a publishing right or something like that, of course I'm going to remake the cover and make it a lot better. But I thought it suited the situation very well. So, what is Whispers of a Killer? A long time ago, when I very first started to write, I wrote a story called Living with a Serial Killer. I wrote this with an amazing co-author, but I had absolutely no idea what the hell I was doing. And this co-author helped me and walked me through the process step by step until I became more comfortable. That story had a lot of great interactions and stuff that happened. But in the end, it ended. But the story itself just didn't kind of flow the way I wanted it to. It just didn't work the way I saw it, in my head. And that was something that I had to learn, is that when you're co-writing, the co-author is going to throw some tools in there and some twists and turns that are really going to send you off into a different direction. And, I kind of had this whole idea, but it just wasn't working the way I wanted it to. Whispers of a Killer is my version of that premise. So am I taking what I have already written and using it? No, I'm not. I wrote very poorly at that time. I only wrote about 100 to 400 words at a time, maybe a paragraph or more before I posted, and then it was just off, and it was just constant, bang, little post, boom, 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 constantly down the line. If I tried to take that story, it would make no sense. It would make no sense. So I am rewriting the story from the get-go. But at least now, because I came into Nano with no premise, with no planning, with no ideas, now I have a premise to work off of. Living with a serial killer, but fixed and deeper and more in depth, right? With my own twist on things. So now I have that going for me. I have an idea that I can write towards. The next thing I needed was characters. So I had a character named Trent Chesterfield inside this story, Living with a Serial Killer. I do not remember the name of the character the co-author made. But Trent Chesterfield was very cool. He was very deep. He had a lot of depth to it. He had, personality quirks. He had all kinds of stuff. So again, I have a premise for a character, but I don't want to use that character. But I need an idea, something to work with, instead of grabbing from a movie or grabbing from a book or grabbing from some other thing. I have an original concept, but I don't want to use that original concept. I just want to use the premise of what that concept was, which was a wealthy, rich serial killer, right? Who was in good shape and stuff like that. So now I have this. So you'll notice in Whispers of a Killer, I'm referring to him as Trent Chesterfield. This is just a placeholder. As I go back through and I edit the story and I fix it, his name will be changed to something else more suitable to the character. As for the second character or the secondary protagonist, the female in my romance, I have no idea what the co-author wrote. I don't know. So I created a character for the secondary, and I just kind of went wild with it. So let's talk about my story. The first thing I did is, you'll see down here my total word count, right? That's how I keep count of my words. I come on here and I write every day, and I keep track of my words this way. You'll also notice that it's badly written. It's not edited. That's because there's just not a lot of time. When you're writing for NaNo, you just don't have a lot of time, and editing can really slow you down a lot, especially if you're proofreading. Consider what I'm doing a very rough draft, right? So it's very rough. It's just as quickly as I can get these ideas out of my head and onto paper and out, right? After that, I can go back through, I can reread what I've written, I can edit it as needed, and I can change things as I want and take all the time I need as I go back through and constantly make these corrections. Maybe deleting entire paragraphs and just coming back and rewriting an entire thing. It really just depends on what is what's going on. So I put a standard content warning at the top, right? The following content is highly disturbing. I put rape in there. There's no rape. I put sexual assault. There hasn't been any sexual assault. I doubt there will be. It's a very generalized content warning. And then I also have up at the top that it's a work of fiction, names, characters, places, incidents, all products of my imagination, all fictitious, created and presented. Any relation to real places, real events, real situations are all coincidental. They're not intentional. Then I have that it's revolving around an amoral, bloody, exploitative, manipulative, murdering, self-destructive serial killer, and it tells a story that is intended to be monstrous. Don't mistake the behaviors in this story for my own, because they are not, right? And then I go into the whole reader discretion advised. Now, we're not going to go through and review everything. We will read a small section of it just so you can see how I write, but I'll tell you a little bit about the premise of what the story is, right? So we're going to refer to him as Trent Chesterfield, but as we already know, that name's going to change because he's not Trent Chesterfield. He's just, that's just a placeholder on a premise that I was using. So this guy is a investor, at-home investor who has been extremely successful. He is quite wealthy, but he also suffers from extreme OCD, right? To an extreme point. All labels in items, products and stuff need to face outward. We saw something like that in Sleeping with the Enemy, I think. Then there is, his house is very minimalistic. There's nothing, no portraits, no clutter, no paintings, no anything. There's a TV, there's a sofa, there's a rug, there's a table. That's it. The walls are all white. His floors are pretty white. It's very minimalistic all throughout his house, extremely. And so he has this home And at night, he's sitting at home and he's watching the news, and you find out that there's just this storm that's coming in that's going to be one of the worst storms the area has received in years. And as the storm finally blows in and stuff like that, he starts hearing a knock on his door, a panicked knock. And he was playing the piano at the time of that knock. I believe he was playing, let me look. He was playing Chopin's Sonata No. 2 in a B flat. So, you know, he's playing the piano. He hears this crazy knock at like 10:30 at night on his door. He gets up to go answer the door, and it keeps getting more and more insistent. So he's starting to get a little upset. When he opens the door, he sees this chick standing out there, and she is she's soaked to the bone in this thin little dress, and she's a few years younger than him. She's got, you know, low-cut heels on. She's got a little slip of a dress, and she's been stuck in this storm. So her makeup's run, everything's gone crazy, and she's asking for help. Now, he lives in a cul-de-sac, so he's nervous that there's some kind of scam or something going on. But he invites her in, makes her take her shoes off so that she's not walking around dripping water all over, gets her a towel, stuff like that, and gives her a phone. You find out that Megan Summers is the name that I've gone with, broke up with her boyfriend, who was cheating on her, who was mistreating her, and during this breakup, which was really bad, he threw all her stuff in the dumpster. Don't smoke, it's really bad. He threw all her stuff in the dumpster, and he kicked her out of the house. He has nowhere to go, and so he gave her a bus ticket to go back to her parents. As she was getting ready to leave, he called her, and she thought that maybe they could work things out. They met at a park, and he took the ticket from her and ripped it up and said that he needed the refund on the ticket when it wasn't used, stuff like that. Anyway, he left her in the park, real dick of a guy, and she had been walking for a long time before she finally came across some of these lights that were on in this cul-de-sac, which turned out to be Trent. The situation unfolds further, and she calls her mom, where you find out that her mom cannot let her move back. She does not live in the state, and her mom will not let her move back. Her brother has just moved in with her mother and father. They're too old to accept more people. There's no room for her, and it just basically comes down to she is officially and unequivocally homeless. Trent offers to let her stay if she wants, through conversation and so forth, and she declines, feeling a little uneasy about staying with a stranger that she doesn't know, regardless of his wealth. So he tells her that he'll take her down to a local shelter if that's what she prefers in the morning, but she needed to stay until the storm passed. He does. She stays in a room. She gets some sleep. He gives her some sweats and stuff so that she get changed and so on. And in the morning, he takes her to get her stuff, where you find out that, you know, she lives in a very, very low income area, and all her stuff being set out by the trash did not last long. It was completely raided. People strung it out all over the place. They just trashed her shit, right? And she's so angry that she runs up to her apartment door and she beats on it to yell at her ex about what, you know, all her clothes are gone, you know, her stuff is gone, she's freaking homeless, he's ruined her life, and like, she is really at her wit's end. This guy opens the door and you find out that he's been sleeping with her friend, who is also in the house at the time he opens the door. And she just completely loses her shit. She tries to hit him. She starts screaming. She starts kicking the door. And he opens up the door and pretty much pushes her. And tells her to get the hell out of here. He hates her. He doesn't like her. He hasn't loved her. He only stayed with her because it was obligated. Stuff like that. Pretty jacked up, right? So, Trent steps in, helps her up, and says that they're leaving. And he gets all mad and starts calling her a whore, and that, obviously whatever they did think they had didn't matter because she's moved on to somebody like Trent, and that he's just a sugar daddy. Trent doesn't react at all. Instead, he gives this super fucking creepy smile, like Joker out of the movie or something. I mean, it's super creepy. I tried my best to describe it. And he's staring at her boyfriend, and he's just glaring at him with this creepy ass smile that, is totally psychotic. And then he helps her get back. Don't smoke, it's bad for you. He helps her get back into the car, and then he says that he's going to help take care of her when she's talking about, what's she going to do with all her stuff. He takes her out to a mall and clothing stores, and she ends up spending like $10,000 worth of stuff to buy clothes and all this other stuff. He has her buy shoes, he has her buy clothes, he gets her a phone, he gets her a tablet. He's basically giving her a second shot at life, and his expectations from her is nothing. He doesn't want anything. He's lonely and could use the company in his home. So she's kind of at her wit's end. She can't go to, she can't restart over from a homeless shelter with nothing. She'll never make it. So she doesn't really know what to do. She doesn't have friends because her ex-boyfriend, David, wouldn't allow her to really socialize with people. So she's kind of at her wit's end. So she accepts his assistance. She buys these clothes. She's kind of in awe, but not like you're buying me sort of thing. Just kind of like he's going to want something for doing all this, but he doesn't. And then they go back. When they get back to their place, he helps her get everything inside, tells her to relax, get everything set up, get her phone turned on, so on. And that the only thing he wants is that he can be very particular about the cleanliness of his house. So, he asks that she maintain that, and that, that's it. And then he's going to go and do his own thing. So he walks off. After a little while of putting her stuff away, she decides to go out and see what's going on. And she hears the shower running in his room. She's never seen his room. So she kind of creeps over in that direction and sees him kind of walk past the door and into the bathroom. She, for whatever reason, kind of peeks herself through the door and looks around at his room, and then kind of goes over to the shower and sees him in the shower. And, it's this whole descriptive thing. And, instead of reacting angrily to her when he sees her, he basically invites her to join him and says that she doesn't need to say anything. She just come in and join him. And it works out better in the story than I'm making it sound. And obviously, I'm not going to go into details, but it turns into quite the erotic scene. So that is what I have accomplished so far, in much more detail, mind you. But yeah, that's what I've got so far. So what is the story really pushing towards? Well, he's a serial killer, right? He's been killing people for a long time. He is a serial killer. And she is gradually going to fall in love with him. Boy meets girl, girl meets boy, fall in love, standard romance stuff. But his killing cannot stop. It can be spaced out, but it can't stop. It's almost as compulsive to him as his disorders are. And he's going to start with David, probably. I don't know yet. But he's going to start killing and killing and killing and killing. And at the same time, they're going to have this budding relationship that's growing. And she's going to start noticing odd things about him. Things that just aren't right. Behavior patterns, secrets, stuff like that. She might stumble across this because maybe she thinks he's cheating on her, right? Why would a guy like him be with a poor girl like her, sort of thing? He's got to have somebody else on the side. So maybe she stumbles across it that way. I don't know. It's completely open in the air. There's no direction. There's no plan. But as she starts to uncover these things, she's going to eventually find out that he is a serial killer. And she's going to have to make a choice, a moral one. Is it wrong to love a serial killer? And is she obligated to put a stop to it? Contact the authorities? Should she try to stop him herself? Should she confront him about it? There's a lot of different options and a lot of different things that can happen. So as you can see, the story is very open for interpretation, and there's a lot of potential for me to just really expand on it even further and just keep getting darker. And maybe there could be a second one, you know, for whatever reason, that she you know, turns him in or whatever, and he flees, and that's where, you know, the book ends. And then the second one is where he comes back and tries to get back with her, and still performing all these things. So who knows, right? There's just so many options when you're writing. It's just such an open world, and it's so expansive, and you can really do whatever you want, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing and where I'm at with the story so far. And yeah, that's kind of everything. I mean, we kind of touched base on all our stuff, right? So I guess we have a little bit of time. If you have questions or something, you're welcome to jump on here and ask. But really, that's sort of everything that's going on with my story, and that's kind of how it works. So, you know, we did say we were going to read a small portion of the story. Let's read let's read this paragraph, right? So we'll do that. I'm not a dramatic reader, and I'm not a very good one out loud anyway, so bear with me. But we'll just go with this. A young female voice sounded across the empty living space of the front room from the large flat screen television that rested against the wall. It's time now for your exclusive News at 9 forecast. Michael Gunn, over in our weather center, has the latest. Turning in her seat, she glances towards another man who stood before the large display screen and spoke again. Man, do we have some crazy weather ahead, the weatherman replied, quickly in a deeper tone. Pretty much, yeah, she said, smiling, and chimed in again. Right, I'm a little nervous about what the drive's going to be like in the morning. Well, you're not the only one. I think a lot of those complaints are going to be coming in from a lot of people, especially tonight. We have had a lot of rain over the past few days. Man, this needs to be edited so bad. It's just insane. Trying to read this shit is just crazy. It's like reading garbage and jumbled nonsense. But tonight's going to be particularly difficult, and we'll start what I believe is going to be the worst storm in a year. Let's get into this, and I'll show you what I mean. Turning the newscaster focuses on the screen behind him, and the television is flicked off. So after that, Trent gets up and stuff like that. I'm not going to keep reading this. This is crazy. There's so many mistakes, and it's so jumbled and garbage. That's what I mean by a rough draft, right? I mean, it's so rough. It's so bad, right? I mean, it's bad. And it's so bad that that you really do need to go back through and gut it and correct it and stuff like that. But what you need to focus on during Nano is you need to really just get it out of your head, right? Like that scene that I just read you might not be very good, because it's not, I know. But it's enough to tell me what the hell I was trying to do, what I was talking about, and what my objective was, right? With those things in mind, I can re-edit my work before sending it off to somebody else who professionally edited it, and I can correct what's being said and adjust it so that it is correct. So since we do have a few more minutes before we end, let me show you how I go about editing something. All right, so let's bring up Word real quick, which is the program I use, and we'll take my writing here, that paragraph that we just did, right? We'll copy it. Okay, and then we're gonna paste it in here as a new document. All right, so now that I have this paragraph here, I'll show you how I do most of my editing after I do the rough draft, right? We're not going to go through and do the corrections in phrasing. We're just going to show what I do for editing. So now we're going to go to my editor up here in the corner, and we'll start with spelling mistakes, right? Latest is spelled wrong, so we just click that and it's corrected. Now we'll go to grammar mistakes. Weatherman should be one word, and so on. So you just go through and correct your grammar mistakes. Now you have formality, right? Sometimes you don't want formality, sometimes you do, right? Like let's should be let us. So it just depends on the context of what you're doing. In this situation, the forecaster is trying to be glib. He's trying to be sociable. So I don't want formality here. The next one is we've, and it should be we have. That's actually a good one to do, so I'll do that one. After that, we have inclusiveness, which here we have weatherman should be weathercaster or meteorologist. We'll do meteorologist. And last, we have resume. I'm just going to ignore resume, but we also have other things that we can check, right? We have clarity, consciousness, punctuations, vocabulary, and so forth. Now that we have all that done, right, let's bring up Grammarly. Okay, and we're going to create a new document. Now we're going to take what we just did. I know it's crazy, right? But this is what I do every time when I want to really get down to the nuts and bolts before I send it off to somebody to actually have it edited. I want as much of this stuff corrected as I can, because through editors typically charge by correction and by words. So if you give them a document that is just completely riddled with holes, they're not going to be able to get through it in any kind of significant amount of time. Now that we go onto Grammarly, we can see that Word didn't catch everything, right? So now we can go through and we can fix other things, right? Flat screen should be tagged. Forecast should be forecast with an S. Newscaster should be one word, right? Then it's got these other ones. You have to go premium to do it. I probably will go premium at some point, but at the moment I am not premium. Now comes the really cool part, right? And that is reading it, right? We want to read what we have as naturally as we possibly can. And to do that, we need to be able to select something, which is not going to let us on this page, fortunately. Sort of weird, right? There's no copying here. Yeah, here we go. All right, so let's take this, right-click it, and hit read aloud.
Our writing.
We'll pause it, and then we'll come up here. It's still not going to let us. All right. Here we go. All right. So now that we have edited it in Word, we've also edited it in Grammarly, we have one more step to do. I want it read aloud to me, right, in something relevant to a natural voice. This way I can hear how it sounds. So let's give an example and read some of this out loud, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So just push play.
Writing experts are ready to check your document, right? Young female voice sounded across the empty living space of the front room from the large flat-screen television that rested on the wall. It's time now for your exclusive news at 9 forecasts. Michael Gunover in our weather center has the latest. Turning in her seat, she glanced toward another man who stood before a large display screen as she spoke again. Man, do we have some crazy weather ahead. The meteorologist replied quickly in a deeper tone. Pretty much, yeah. He smiled, offering a light chuckle as she chimed in again. Right, I'm a little nervous about what the drive is going to be like in the morning. Well, you're not the only one. I think a lot of those complaints are going to be coming in from a lot of people. Especially tonight. We have had a lot of rain over the past few days, but tonight is going to be particularly difficult, and will start what I believe is going to be one of the worst storms of the year. Let's get into this and I'll show you what I mean. Turning. The newscaster focused on the screen behind him just as the television flickered off.
So, that's what it's like to have something read aloud to you, right? And what is useful about this is that when you have your story read back to you in a natural way, you can catch things that you wouldn't normally catch if you were reading it yourself. Oh, there shouldn't be a comma there. Oh, like I heard several mistakes, right? Like, oh, the voice shouldn't have stopped in this location. Or the voice should stop here. It should pause here. It should take a breath here. That doesn't sound right. It sounded right in my head, but it doesn't sound right being spoken aloud. So I do all of these steps before I ever post anything, right? Now, this is not just for my writing. I do this when I post to Inner Sanctum as well. Before I reply, I do all of these kinds of corrections before I ever put my work onto the forum, because I make a lot of mistakes. And so, yeah, that's my writing process. That's my ideas. And I think that pretty much does it for our stream today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you give a look to Inner Sanctum. It's a very cool site. But yeah, I mean, we kind of touched based on everything. We talked about what NaNo is. We talked about Inner Sanctum. We talked about my book. We talked about how I do my editing. And we talked about the future of my book and what we're planning on doing from there. I'm going to keep trying to do these little videos like this once a week on a Sunday for about an hour. And then we'll just, or less, depending on feedback from users and stuff like that. And then after that, we probably won't do these anymore. I'm more of a gamer. I don't really do the whole review. I mean, I do a lot of interviews. If you are interested, you'll find those on my YouTube. I do interviews with the co-authors that I write with, so I can get their perspective on the story that we're writing together. I do reviews on some of the stories that I'm writing. I have a few stories right now that I'm writing. I'm writing one that is very dark, very twisted, called Broken Hostage. It's about a guy that suffers from erotomania. And what that is he is absolutely 100% obsessed with this girl who has pretty much no knowledge of him at all. And he stalks her, he kidnaps her, he takes her. It's a very horrific and very, very freaky, dark story. I also have another story that is very fantastical. It's a modern world, but there's magic inside it. Not like Harry Potter, more like, I don't know, Shane Silver's sort of concept, right? That he's an author. So there's magic in the world, and it's hidden from the regular people. But that story's kind of branched off and led into other venues, which took them into the Feywild, and it's gotten really cool and very fun, and it's very good. I also have one more story that I write, which is about a mafia member from the 1920s who has become kind of infatuated with this girl, and he's kind of involving her in states of her life. It is a fictional story, and I have adjusted the mafia to fit my style instead of trying to base it on what they are really like, because it is fictional. So those are the 3 stories that I'm working on, aside from Whispers of a Killer. Plus, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays. And you can always catch those streams. They're very fun. Otherwise, I will see you again on Sunday when we do our next review. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And I hope to see you next time. Take care.